ahead and bring in Steiner Sports CEO, Brandon Steiner.
One of the country's top memorabilia mogul.
I have an unbelievable guest, Brandon Steiner.
Brandon's second to none.
Swarnav Pujari. It's not an easy name, but let me tell you something. Interesting character. As you know, on a Project X, we don't screw around here, so I thought it would be interesting to talk with this young man who has, well, parents look at it like he dropped out of college. He's saying he took a leave of absence, but
It's you know, we don't have to get caught up in the technicalities, do we?
oh, yes, we do. But we'll get to that later because, you know, I listen, I have a lot of respect for Generation Z. I have a lot of respect for somebody like yourself, and we're going to find out why, because you got the balls and you come up with a really good idea and you're taking action, and I love all that, but I'm a big fan of school. I've said it on this program, so I'm not picking on you, but, you know, I'm a fan of college. I'm a fan of growing up and getting through it, even though it's not easy. I struggled. School was, but, you know, you have to learn to get through the struggles. You have to learn to fight through the stuff that maybe you're not that good at to get to the stuff that,
of course,
because you don't know when that stuff's going to come back around and help you down the road. And then there's just the growing up stuff, you know, learning how to, you know, just the fraternity formals and, you know, just learning how to get along with a roommate and all that stuff, you know, just growing up stuff.
Absolutely.
You know, right?
Absolutely.
Anyway, tell me, and for everyone out there, what your company is about. It's a power and an energy company. What's the goal, your mission? Why did you start this company, and who's this company for?
Yeah, absolutely. So I started a company called Touchlight Innovations. That's a power generation solutions company. We work with commercial property owners, so stadiums, hotels, theme parks, to design systems to take them off the grid. And what we specifically have developed is this device called the Energy Tile. And the Energy Tile is an in-floor device, so it could sit in parking lots, sidewalks, hallways, lobbies, and it can generate electricity as you walk across it, drive cars across it, and it's also able to capture solar in outdoor environments. So when you install this in places like the Chicago Cubs Stadium, Wrigley Field, or Yankee Stadium, you could theoretically increase power capacity to a limit where you could take the entire property off the grid. So you would never need any electricity
or
from
save
the local.
or save a lot of money on electricity when you're in your busiest times potentially.
Exactly. So 24/7.
Who developed this item? Did you develop it?
Yeah.
Are you a tech person? Are you a developer?
Yeah. So I was working in the materials field back in high school. So I used to go down to Georgia Tech. I did research under a professor there in different materials that generated power. That led into different developments and devices that I actually installed in our high school. It was a very kind of janky design.
You were an odd kid. Don't dance around it. You were an odd kid. You right? They didn't even know what to do. They didn't even know what to do with you.
Hey, it worked out in my favor.
Do you think he's an odd kid? I mean, listen. Forget about the fact that he dropped out of college. We'll get to that another time. We'll let his parents deal with him on that. But is he an odd kid? Because this is a phenomenal idea, and you see this more and more. I mean, you're obviously a special kid. You're a smart young man. And you see it more and more now. Like, where do you get this entrepreneurial spirit from, number one? And is this, did the light go off, like, in high school? Or was you just like this right out of the gate? Your parents didn't probably know what to do with you right away.
I still don't think my parents know what they want to do with me yet, so I'm just drifting down, right? No, but really the interest into the energy space started at a younger age. I was 11. I think Ford Motors specifically came to our school at the time. They said,
when you were
design
11.
a car. Yeah. So it was more of a child competition, you know, design a car for the future. It was one of those, you know, push them into all these children. And at that time, my grandfather actually is a professor in the electronics energy space, and he sends me this massive textbook, which I still keep with me over my bed.
And what was the name of it?
It was Renewable Energy Systems, and it's by John Twiddle.
So Swarnav, at 11, you're reading this book that your grandfather gave you, or you read through that book? I would have taken that book and put it underneath my bed and pulled it out when my gramps came over, but you actually looked through the book, or?
So we went through the basic concept of how solar works, how wind works, and all these different, obviously not the nitty gritty. I'm 11-year-olds at this time, but I designed concept car at that time for the competition. We
At
won
11.
it at 11. That used multiple energy sources, solar, wind power, all in a car, so it would never have to get charged by anything.
Wow.
And that stemmed into wanting to do more research in that space. And basically everything I do these days has been always focused around what is my body of work at the end of my life. And
So that's your purpose, is to
that's what
get
I
this
focus
world
on.
more effective and efficient with its energy?
Exactly. So we are not heading down the perfect path yet in terms of energy generation. Society has started to educate themselves far more in the energy space.
What's taking us so
And,
long?
It's really
Why
a twofold
why are
thing.
people
There's
so
not
stubborn?
enough.
Are we SOS, stuck on stupid, or are we just stuck on stubborn?
I wouldn't use the word stupid as much as I would use everyone needs their time to educate themselves in the space. So there's not enough investment going in. We don't have enough infrastructure set up, and not only governmental support, but also societal support to do it. Because there's a learning curve to everything, right? If you think about any new technology, any disruptive technology, let's take the most recent one of Uber, right? When Uber launched, there was pushback like, I'm going to get into a stranger's car, and there were problems with that, and it was rightfully so. But today, we barely get around anywhere without trying to use ride-sharing services.
Oh,
and
no
now
question. Well, I'm going to put that solar on my house. What's my house going to look like?
Exactly.
What are the neighbors going to think? I mean,
Exactly. So
but
it's
but it should be when people come to buy your house. If you don't have solar, it should be a disadvantage.
of course.
But that's
and
not the mindset yet.
Exactly. So people need to learn that energy and on-site generation of energy is an asset. And that's what we bring to the table. The reason commercial property owners like working with us and they talk to us and they want to adopt our technology and our methods is because we show them how energy can be such a valuable financial asset that they should be investing in, rather than looking at it as, oh, it's just a good social good and it'll get people to write a few nice articles about me.
How many people work for your company? You're the CEO. I mean, you're
Yeah.
20.
21.
21.
Yeah.
And you're CEO of this company, which you started. How many people work for you? And are you hiring people? Are you expanding? Do you actually implement these? Are you implementing?
Yeah, so
These-
you'll start to see deployments in the very near future with a few big names and such coming out. Can't speak publicly of the specific names that we're deploying with and working with,
Okay.
but you'll hear of them very soon.
How many people work for you?
Right now we have about 8 people on staff, and that number changes based on the contractors and such that
How
come
much money did you have to raise to get this started? And where did you go get this money? You're 21. I mean, where do you go? Where does a 21-year-old go and get this kind of money to start something like this?
Absolutely. So we're actually backed by a large utility in the Midwest called Ameren. They're based out of Missouri, so I think they operate all in Missouri and the southern part of Illinois. They're one of our largest investors in the company, and they see exactly where we're trying to move the future of energy, which I believe is going to be off-grid and distributed generation focused. And they agree with that kind of mindset. But obviously, as a large corporation, you don't necessarily always have the feasibility to just quickly adapt and change and try something brand new. And that's the opportunity we give investors of that nature. And we have other friends and family, other business
Was this
professionals.
hard? Or was this like your first? I mean, how many people did you have to pitch to go get that support and money?
It was a very long timeline to raise.
A lot of no's?
It was a learning.
We're honest in this program. We've all I lead the league in no's. I mean, rejection would be my middle. Would be like my.
I've
most
read your
common-
book.
Yeah, I mean, rejection is if you're an entrepreneur and you're not like. If rejection is almost a normal feeling that you get on a regular basis, you're probably not really an entrepreneur.
No, of course.
Now, did you feel, so elaborate on the rejection
There were
part.
hundreds of pitch meetings that I've given.
Because I don't want people to
over
get the wrong
years.
feeling. Obviously, you popped up, had an idea,
Absolutely.
and this money appeared in your bank account.
Yeah, it's not as easy as just saying, "Hey, there's a great idea I have.
Yeah.
Let's go out and raise money, build a $1 billion business." You learn very early on that's not the way this world works.
Yeah.
So it was a matter of literally refining, educating myself, continuously pitching and getting feedback from individuals.
As you're pitching and failing,
Exactly.
you're learning.
Exactly. So early on, when I started pitching the concept and the technology, it was still in high school time. I'm, toying around with this idea. It wasn't a formal company. We founded formally in 2016 when I felt confident, hey, this is a business. We have an actual product that we can sell and a service we can offer here.
And I guess you have it copyrighted and
yeah, so we have patents filed already. We're protecting both in the U.S. and overseas as well.
Now, do you think about going on a Shark Tank or going to a company and just trying to sell this idea, make those royalties on it?
Of course.
Was it hard to make that decision what road to get down?
So it's about business model evaluation, right? So it's at the end of the day, the numbers drive it. So
business model evaluation, that's definitely not a phrase I was using at 20. I was like, depends who I can really scheme and theme enough to buy into.
Well, it's cash at the end of the day, isn't it?
All right, that's fair.
So it's where the money flows, you go, right?
Good for you.
So.
Yeah, that's true. But you were evaluating your options. Yeah. Who helped you evaluate those options? And it's hard for a guy like you not to maybe do the money grab. Yeah. Which is my point. Because you got to have somebody say, look, we'll give you some money for this. We'll just give you some raw. I'm sure you had that offer.
Oh, yeah. I
was that hard to turn that down?
So initially, the biggest thing with me has always been the person at the other side of the table. If I trust you, I want to go into business with you. The one thing I've learned is the other person on the other side of the table isn't necessarily always going to have all the knowledge, all the experiences that we need to succeed, but if they have the right mindset, that's going to really define how this business is going to go. There was a point in time when I did have an offer on the table. We were getting to the point of getting to the closing documents, all those things, term sheets, SPAs, all that stuff. But the offer was a very awkward one, and the individuals on the other side of the table were very tough to evaluate. And that's what threw up a red flag, not for me as much as when I came back and told my dad about it. I'm like, hey, we're going to get all this money. I'm going to sell this off. This is going to be great. And then he said, let me have a conversation with them beforehand. And my dad really showed me a way to understand and evaluate people really quickly. Different strategies.
Parents.
I know, they're valuable, right?
Wow.
Thank you, Mom and Dad, if you are watching this.
Wow, I'm loving it. Exactly. Parents don't get enough props. And then I love that not only that you give your parents the props and your dad, but also the fact that you knew that there was somebody maybe wiser. Like, I'm the idiot in my family, but God forbid my kids ask me for any help. But the fact you thought, hey, let me go get a second opinion or another look. It was free. I mean, why wouldn't you use the free help? Which is what I tell my kids all the time. Like, I'm the best bargain you're gonna get.
Exactly.
Yeah, pretty good. But they're not buying that. But I think that was very smart of you, because extraordinary people always go and get outside themselves and just try to get the best possible solutions, help that they can get. They never let their ego get in the way.
100%.
Because they're just in a mad pursuit to get extraordinary.
Oh, these offers and opportunities are very enticing,
yes.
But
So what'd your dad say? What'd your dad teach you?
Specifically in that moment, the way he told me to evaluate is saying, if you had to live with this person the rest of your life, would you want to continue to work with them? And that's the question I ask myself whenever I'm talking with someone on the other side of the table is, am I willing to get into a quote-unquote marriage, a lifetime marriage with this individual? And would I feel happy that we would be able to get through any downturns that will happen? It's not if it'll happen. There will be points in your career, in your timeline, that you're going to be at the other person's neck, and you need to make sure that you guys can get through that.
I think most people underestimate the P word. And the problem is most people think that P word stands for profit. But the word partner is probably one of the most important words you can have in your life.
Absolutely.
Because those partnerships will make or break you.
100%.
And obviously the ones, your marriage or your partner in business, you're talking about years. I mean, there's very few decisions that are going to wipe out years of your life.
Absolutely.
When they go wrong.
Exactly.
The wrong wife or husband is years. The wrong business partner, years off your life when they go wrong. And if you don't have a person you could trust or at least be able to have intelligent, fair dialogue with,
100%.
It's disastrous because it's fully consuming. You're not have a relationship, you have a partnership. Exactly. So that you can't get away from this person.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
It's
so I think that's phenomenal advice.
Oh, yeah.
Can't argue that.
It's how I've gone through evaluating anyone from an investor to an engineer. We're hiring engineers now as part of our last round closing.
Feeling the pressure on the talent evaluation? I mean, talent acquisition is hard or easy for
Talent
you?
is always a very tough thing to find. That's because you want to qualify people based on a resume or a standard that you would like, rather than comparing two people who have applied to your job. So when you compare it to the ideal person, you have to weigh the pros and the cons of that. So talent acquisition has always been a very tough thing. Finding people, hiring cycles can go from 2 days to years. So it ranges. There's quite a bit of work to be put into recruiting the right kind of individuals.
First of all, what's your biggest challenge you have? Like, what's the biggest challenge in getting this energy company off the ground?
Well, you're going into a market where you need to educate a lot of individuals about the benefits of it, everything from the financial side of it, because real estate mindset is very financial. It's like, if I make an investment here, it better be 10x of what I put in.
Is
right?
it expensive to make an investment? Like to go, let's say you're going to go put that in Yankee Stadium.
Exactly.
Is that a lot of money to go and do that?
Absolutely. So the way our business model is structured is very much focused on the leasing kind of model, right? Much like you'll make car payments every month, you're paying us for electricity just like you pay your local
But I'm
utility.
saving money on the same time.
Exactly. So if you're paying your utility company 22 cents, right, in the city kind of areas, you may be paying us 15 cents a kilowatt hour. So now you're saving money, and on top of that, you need to understand what the long-term values are also gained by working with us, as opposed to just saying, oh, well, I've always been buying electricity from Con Edison, so let me just keep buying
So I'm
it.
laying out some money at the beginning to put your thing
Actually,
in place.
you have no money up front. So the difficult part is on my back end.
So it's really just about making a commitment that you're going to be able to deliver this electric, because that's the fear, is what happens if something happens to you.
Exactly.
Now I got no way to go turn my lights on with.
Exactly.
That's the fear.
So that's a fear that's faced, and a challenge that many companies face, even in the solar space, not necessarily our tile tech. So the way to mitigate that, there are different ways to approach it from the standpoint of a real estate owner. You can put in different clauses in the contract that will keep managing it guaranteed for the 20 years, passing it on to another company, etc. During like a liquidity event, if you acquire me, then we pass on those rights there. So there's many different ways we've already found contractually to be able to protect real estate owners. But now it's about getting that message out there.
But also the credibility. You talked about having somebody across from you that you look in their eyes and trust, and can I deal with the rest of my life? That's how consumers feel with their company. So the question is it's not only how good your idea is, but how good your brand is. Your brand believable and can go the distance? Are you a long-term, here for the long haul, that I trust you with my electric needs? And that's where the brand play comes in, where your initial implementation of this concept will have a big impact on saying, hey, I put the electric in for Steiner, or I put the electric in for the New York Yankees, or for Madison Square Garden, or or MetLife Stadium. Like they trusted me, so and it may cost you some money to do that.
Of course,
right?
and the trick there to get in the door is it's a relationship game, exactly as you mentioned, and that's with any business, be it e-commerce or such. You're holding a relationship with an individual. That's why I love the service model, and the way I was able to find a way around this brand and getting in there. You don't necessarily need to build up your brand immediately, because that's a long process. It's about building trust with individuals. So you find someone who already has that credibility. And in terms of the utility space, hey, we have a utility company backing a future developed utility company.
Some credibility there. It's street credibility. And it's harder and harder these days to get street credibility and who you hire.
Exactly.
So who is your number one? What was your number one most important person that works for you? Because you're like an inventor, you're a techie to some degree.
Absolutely.
Who's your back end person who's handling the bean counting or the sales end and that kind of thing?
Absolutely. So the biggest hire, the first person I wanted to bring on my team was someone who had these relationships already into the stadium, hotel, and theme park vertical. So our sales guy. Because at the end of the day,
hard to find?
It was tough to meet him. It took about 6 to 8 months of just knocking on doors, meeting people, them connecting me to another person who knew another person. Then I meet this individual, Scott, and we hit it off. We're talking. It's like, hey, you have all the connections. I have the product and tech here. Let's see if we can work together on this. Because at the end of the day, if you're not making sales and not making a profit, it's it's not really a business. It's, more of a cool research project, or an expensive hobby.
And you're
as
past
people
that
say.
point because you could have done the money grab if that was your mindset.
Absolutely.
You could have taken the money, even though maybe you get screwed, maybe it doesn't play out because you dealt with the wrong partners. But there was some money coming your way.
Of course.
Obviously, you weren't in this for the money.
Absolutely. I mean, Touchlight's, it's a child that you want to nurture, right? And you have specific goals, both financial as well as socially, that you want to drive with this, right? And you have to keep, true to that mindset at any given time. And that's what I wake up and I work on, and that's what everyone else on our team wakes up and works on. And that's what we're proud to have. And the success of this business is not going to be because we have the best product or the best service or the best financial returns.
What would the success be
It's
based
going to be
on?
the people behind it. Because if we can't execute, then no one's going to ever hear about the service. If we offer the service and it's bad, then the team is always the core for me. So it's those relationships that I value the highest. Of course, there's a part of it where you need to have good product, good service, but you can always fix and adapt and pivot, at least at the early stages. And that's why I value relationships at the highest part of anything we do in this business and beyond.
And in life.
Exactly.
At the end of your life, which is many, many years from now, you'll be looking, and your life will be valued by the relationships you have. And those relationships are going to be based on two things: trust and communication.
Absolutely.
How you communicate with people, and you understanding how they felt, and you understanding what they needed, and them understanding why you felt what you needed, and whether they trusted you or not. So, many, many moons. That's how people view your brand. We like to think people trust, Steiner Sports, and that's a huge.
There's a reason it's this big of a.
It's our 30th anniversary, but I never take a day for granted. And trust is probably the underlying issue. When people buy stuff from us, it's amazing you come this far this fast. Are you scared? What's keeping you up at night? What are you scared? Are you a little scared at all?
Everyone's always a little bit scared,
well,
right?
That's good.
It's about
you need to be a little bit, right?
Right, absolutely, and it's the fear of the unknown, right? When we wake up in the morning, I don't know what the day's going to hold, right? Today we came in, we're meeting together. It's raining outside. I couldn't have predicted that, and it's being able to always have the capability and capacity to adapt to those situations. That's always that little bit nagging in your back, and that's really what keeps us up at night, keep me up at night, and everyone else on the team as well. But you have to find people around you who can help you solve those. Advisors are so valuable. That's, again, another way to get free advice, right? Experience comes with age too, and if you can learn from other people's experiences, we're not all going to have the same. That's the way you can solve any problem. So
you're working through a lot of entrepreneurial one-on-one stuff that you've been through. Just give me a quick little vision in closing. Let's go into our crystal ball. Tell me what you think where you're going to be at in 10 years from now. What would you like to have happen? Well, that's a reasonable amount of time.
Exactly.
I think a lot of people get confused about not wanting to be successful, but how long that road is.
Exactly.
Yeah, I said, listen, I think you got a good idea, but probably 8 or 10 years, you probably get somewhere. Most people are 8 or 10 years. That's kind of how long it takes. I don't think anything happens before 5 years.
Oh, it's
I was
an
open
overnight
Steiner.
success.
If I could just be open for 5 years, I'd be like, thank God, 5 years, so people would actually know that I was in business and everything else. But I'm giving you 10. Things are moving a little quicker these days, but tell me where you're at 10 years from now in your crystal ball vision.
Our hope is in a decade's time, we're able to at least start advancing the energy economy towards the world of self-generation of electricity. That's what we're focused on. That's the principle we've built the company on, the foundation it's built off of. So in 10 years, I would love to be working in the stadiums vertical. If we could theoretically do enough installations to get every MLB studio and stadium, covered.
It's a big ask, though, because so much is hinging on that electricity.
Of course, it's all about electricity generation at the core, right? So there's a lot of variables at play, but the dream is if we could be working if we've saturated that stadium vertical, started to creep into the hotels and theme park industries, then I would have considered our 10 years being a very productive one. The thing about the energy space, and especially with hardware, and especially with electricity at the core, there's a lot of regulations and stuff that you have to step through rather than step around, given, politics in general. So with that being said,
are
things
you
can.
are you concerned about that though, or
I'm not concerned too much, because at the end of the day, we live in a country that's very supportive of the way the people think, right? And somehow, at the end of the day, it all goes the way the people want it to. If the larger mindset wants something, it usually ends up happening. So I'm not concerned. I think it's an education process about getting out there, sharing our message more to individuals, getting more installations, getting more partners, starting working more with stadiums that we haven't already contacted at this point, and continue to move the business forward in the
minor
right
league
direction.
ballparks, or maybe some of the
Exactly.
small stadiums? People always think Yankee Stadium, but minor league ballparks may be more apt to that savings
Exactly.
and testing, and that may be the testing ground you need.
It's the
to
great
work out
safe
the kinks,
place.
right?
Exactly.
How do people get a hold of you? And are you at a starting point? So if I did have a facility, are you in a position to take on a
Yeah.
project and facilitate it?
Absolutely. So right now we are taking pre-orders for our pilots. Our pilots are basically, we can take a concession stand off the grid. It's a very safe, smaller kind of scale project. You'll get about 100 square feet of our tiles. Our tiles will be installed above ground, so it's not intrusive. And if you want to power a concession stand, I have maybe 3D printers in the
But
background.
you
or
need
something like
traffic though to
Exactly.
right?
So you would put it on your stadium, in your
Yeah.
stadium still.
a carnival,
exactly.
amusement park. You mentioned a high
Exactly.
school.
High
right?
schools are great.
A lot of traffic, kids. So it wouldn't be like a big house, or it's not going to be an
Yeah.
apartment building really
It's-
necessarily.
It's not for homes and
Yeah,
residential
yeah.
right now. That's not our market. We work in commercial spaces where there's a large malls are great. So there's a lot of different types of facilities we can work in.
Simon Mall kind of
Exactly,
thing.
Simon
So
Malls would be
you got a
great.
big idea. How do people get a hold of you? Where do we go?
So you can email me directly if you'd like, and that's at ssp@tli.technology. No .com at the end, just ssp@tli.technology.
How'd you work that out?
You can buy really cool domains
It's
at this
unbelievable,
point.
man. I'm like in the
So-
dark here, man. I feel like I'm always like 15 steps behind when I talk to you guys. But it's funny when I talk to like a Generation Z, nobody ever gives a website. Is that like that's gonna that would be like me saying fax me,
Exactly.
fax that document to me. But do you have a website or
Yes,
is that,
absolutely.
But you wouldn't think of giving that out because that's like almost like it's old school.
You can go to our
Or-
website to learn more about us.
You think?
Yeah, you could.
But it's interesting how you give out that email. That's such a young person's thing, like to do is like give out the email, not give the website. If someone said, Brandon Steiner, say go to brandonsteiner.com or go to steinersports.com, learn about it, and then you would see my email there. But
It's
younger-
about relationships, right?
Yeah. Well, it's nice you give your email out, but your website is what?
TLI.technology, or you could find us easily at touchlightinnovations.com. So both of those will direct you to the same.
I love this idea. I got to tell you, Swarnav, this is. First of all, for your age, the learning experiences, assuming this doesn't even work, just the negotiations, the hiring, it's just put you in such a great position on your mission to hopefully doing some really good in the world. And what I love is this is a product and a project that will do some good in the world. Obviously, we've got to become more efficient. We've got to just be smarter. We were just talking about this article in the New York Times about how you can take a cell and get protein. It was in the Times yesterday about how you can eat steak maybe without having to kill cows, which is like why so long did this take? We've been killing all these animals, and it's the same thing like with so many things we do in this world with water and wasting oil and all this stuff. But I love when I see energy savings because it makes life to be cleaner. It seems to me.
Exactly. That's the fundamental of what human progress is, right?
Yeah.
We find solutions to problems we didn't necessarily prioritize beforehand. And at the end of the day, it's not really a hard decision for people. It's about what do you want to see the world to be. And based on that, you'll make decisions as both a consumer, as an entrepreneur, as a businessman. It's just, at the end of the day, what do you want to be telling people in 10 years? It's like, over the last decade, we have flying cars, or is it, we want to be focusing on this as a different technology. We want to approach these solutions. We want to be doing ride sharing. Maybe we want to work on the environment. So it's really down to the individual level. And that's why, again, it comes back down to how can you speak with every individual in the largest capacity possible to show them and educate them on the options without trying to really sway them in one way or the other, so that they can make that decision for themselves.
Love that. That's a great definition for where you're going. And Great mindset. Appreciate you today. Thanks
Thank
for coming
you.
by. I know the weather was a little rocky. You can't not be a big fan of this young man. And we need more of this kind of thinking, and we need to promote more of this kind of thinking in our schools so that school can act as a support system as opposed to you having to go break loose from it. Thank you, my friend.
Thanks for having me.